Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible? Like no one even noticed you were there? Imagine being 65 years old, carrying years of memories, sacrifices, and quiet moments, yet feeling like you're just a shadow fading away with time. But what if one simple change, just one bold decision, could flip that feeling upside down? What if, in a single moment, you could stop being invisible and become the most stunning, unforgettable person in the entire ballroom? Tonight, you're about to meet a woman who did exactly that. A grandmother who, at 65, stunned everyone. Not just with her new haircut, but with a transformation that went far beyond appearances. This isn't just a story about hair. It's a story about courage, rebirth, and reclaiming your light when you thought it had dimmed forever. So sit back, lean in, and get ready. Because what you're about to hear might just change everything you thought you knew about age, beauty, and the power of daring to be seen. At 65, she walked into the grand ballroom. And in that moment, something extraordinary happened. The kind of moment you'd expect only in movies or fairy tales. But this was real. This was her night. You might wonder, what could a simple haircut possibly do? How could a change in hairstyle turn a quiet, almost invisible grandmother into the most talked about woman in the room? The answer is more than just hair. It's about transformation, about rediscovery, and about a spark deep inside that refuses to be extinguished by time. For decades, she was just like many others, unseen, unheard, blending into the background like a ghost in her own life. Family gatherings were a blur. Her presence barely registered. People didn't stop to talk, didn't notice when she arrived or left. It was as if she carried a cloak of invisibility, woven from years of routine, sacrifice, and fading self-worth. But then one restless night, something stirred within her. A whisper, a daring, defiant thought that crept into her mind and refused to leave. What if I could shine again? What if I dared to break free? It wasn't easy. Fear whispered back louder. Who are you to stand out? You're too old for this. People will laugh, judge, forget you again. Yet that tiny spark kept flickering, growing brighter with each passing day. She started noticing herself in ways she never had before. The way her hair fell limp, lifeless. The way her reflection looked tired and defeated. And beneath all that, she saw a fire waiting to roar. Then came the decision that changed everything. A decision so simple, yet so radical. A visit to the salon. A new hairstyle. But this wasn't just about fashion or vanity. It was a rebellion against invisibility. A declaration that she was still here, still vibrant, still deserving of attention and admiration. You can imagine the shock when she stepped back into that ballroom. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Eyes widened. The woman who once faded into shadows now commanded the room without saying a word. She didn't just look different. She became different. But this story isn't just about a haircut. It's about courage, the kind that defies age and expectations. It's about reclaiming identity when the world seems to have written you off. And it's about the quiet power of one woman's choice to be seen. What exactly happened that night? What did she do differently? And how did those closest to her react to the transformation? There's a secret hidden in every snip of her scissors, in every style chosen, in every daring step she took out of her comfort zone. And it's a secret that might just change the way you see yourself, no matter your age. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear will surprise you. It will inspire you. It might even challenge everything you thought you knew about growing older, and about the power of a simple change. The question is, are you ready to see her story unfold? Are you ready to witness how at 65 one woman stunned not just a ballroom, but the entire idea of what it means to be glamorous, to be bold, to be alive? This is more than a makeover. It's a revolution in the making. And it's waiting for you to take the first step with her. For years she lived like a ghost. Not because she wanted to be unseen, but because life had gently pushed her into the shadows. She was a grandmother, a caretaker, a woman who had given so much of herself to others that her own reflection became unfamiliar. She woke up every morning to the same routine: brewing tea, preparing breakfast, tidying the house. Her days were full but empty at the same time. Family visits were infrequent, and when they did happen, she was just one face among many. The laughter and chatter of others floated around her, but rarely included her voice. In mirrors, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Her hair, once full and lively, now hung limp and gray. Her skin bore the soft map of time's passage, lines that told stories she no longer wanted to read. The sparkle in her eyes had faded, dulled by years of putting everyone else first. Sometimes she caught herself wondering, am I still relevant? Am I still beautiful? But those thoughts were quickly pushed aside, buried under a mountain of duties and expectations. Because that's what life had taught her. To be quiet, to be humble, to be invisible if necessary. She wasn't alone in this feeling. Many women her age drift through their days like faded photographs, unnoticed and unremarked. Society rarely celebrates the quiet strength of women who've aged gracefully without fanfare. Instead, the world's spotlight often ignores them, focusing on youth and novelty. But inside her, a tiny voice whispered differently. It wasn't loud or demanding. It was patient and persistent. A voice that reminded her there was still fire left, still a story worth telling. One afternoon, after a family gathering that left her feeling more invisible than ever, she sat alone by the window. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the room. She watched people outside, young women laughing, their hair bouncing with life. She envied their freedom, their confidence. Then she thought, why not me? Why couldn't she be one of them? Why couldn't she own the room like they did? The idea seemed so far-fetched, almost impossible. But it planted a seed. A daring hope that maybe, just maybe, she could find herself again. That night, as the house fell silent, she pulled out an old photo album. Pictures of her younger self smiled back at her. A woman full of dreams, laughter, and life. She traced the outline of her own face with trembling fingers, as if trying to touch the past and bring it forward. The decision formed slowly, like the dawn breaking through the night. She would take a chance. She would do something for herself, for once. The next morning, she made a call to a local salon she'd never visited before. The receptionist's cheerful voice gave her a flicker of courage she hadn't felt in years. She booked an appointment. As the day approached, a storm of emotions brewed inside her. Excitement, fear, anticipation, and doubt. What if it didn't work? What if people laughed? What if she was just fooling herself? But something deeper pulled her forward. A stubborn belief that beneath the gray hair and tired eyes, a vibrant woman was waiting to be reborn. On the morning of her appointment, she stood in front of the mirror for what felt like hours. She smoothed down her hair, adjusted her clothes, and took a deep breath. This was it. Walking into the salon felt like stepping into a new world. The scent of hair products, the soft buzz of blow dryers, the warm smiles. It was a sensory overload. But she embraced it all, letting herself believe that she deserved this moment. The stylist greeted her with kindness and enthusiasm. They talked about styles, colors, and cuts, things she hadn't thought about in years. The stylist's hands worked expertly, snipping away more than just hair. With every strand that fell, it felt like a piece of doubt and fear was shed too. Time seemed to stretch and compress all at once. When the final reveal came, she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back from the mirror was radiant, confident, and stunning. It wasn't just the haircut. It was the transformation of spirit. She felt a warmth in her chest, a lightness in her step. But the journey was just beginning. Because stepping out of invisibility isn't always met with applause. Sometimes it stirs the unexpected. Curiosity, jealousy, even resistance from those who've grown used to the quiet version of you. What happened next challenged her in ways she never imagined. Yet, with every step forward, she found strength she didn't know she had. And soon the world would have no choice but to see her, not just as a grandmother or caretaker, but as a woman reborn, shining brighter than ever. When she stepped out of that salon, her heart was pounding. Not just from excitement, but from a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The woman staring back at her in the mirror was new, radiant, unrecognizable in the best way. Yet, beyond the walls of that salon, the world awaited with its familiar indifference and sometimes its harsh judgment. She knew that changing her hairstyle was only the beginning. The real challenge was to carry this new version of herself into everyday life, to walk through streets and into rooms where no one had expected her to shine. The first time she ventured out with her new look, it felt like stepping onto a stage without a script. Every reflection in shop windows caught her eye, reminding her that she was different now, not just in appearance but in spirit. At the grocery store, the cashier's glance lingered a moment longer. At the cafe, a stranger smiled warmly and said, "You look fantastic." Those small moments sparked something inside her, a quiet confidence that began to grow with each passing day. But not everyone was ready to accept the change. Some family members expressed surprise, even discomfort. "Why such a drastic change?" they asked. "You don't need to stand out." Their words stung. After all, she had spent so long fading into the background to keep the peace, to avoid rocking the boat. But now she realized that living quietly had also dimmed her own light. She understood then that embracing herself fully meant accepting both admiration and criticism. It meant standing tall even when others tried to pull her back into invisibility. One evening an invitation arrived. An elegant ballroom event organized by the local community. It was a night of celebration, music, and stories. A perfect opportunity to test her newfound confidence. Her heart raced as she prepared. The dress she chose hugged her curves in a way she hadn't dared to imagine before. Her makeup was subtle but accentuated her natural beauty. And her hair. Her hair was the crown she had always deserved but never worn. As she entered the ballroom, the chatter quieted. Eyes turned. Conversations paused. It was as if the room itself acknowledged her transformation. She felt a rush, a cocktail of nerves and exhilaration, but she didn't shrink back. Instead, she smiled, walked with grace, and let her presence fill the space. That night, she wasn't just a grandmother or an old woman trying to look young. She was a beacon of strength, a symbol of rebirth, and an inspiration to everyone who witnessed her glow. Whispers floated through the crowd. "Who is she? She looks incredible. I've never seen her like this before." But beneath the glamour and the admiring glances, she held on to a deeper truth, that the real transformation had been internal. The haircut was the spark, but the fire was her reclaiming her own story. Yet, as the night unfolded, she faced moments that tested her resolve. A few familiar faces expressed doubt, some even whispered behind her back. Old insecurities crept in. Would this new confidence survive the shadows of judgment? Could she maintain her shine when the world tried to dim it? That night was a turning point. She realized that true glamour wasn't just about appearances. It was about owning who you are unapologetically. And with that realization, her journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. After that unforgettable night at the ballroom, she thought the hardest part was behind her. But stepping into the light, standing tall as the center of attention, brought a new kind of challenge, the battle within herself. Her reflection now showed a confident woman, but inside, doubt still whispered in quiet moments. Could she keep this up? Was this new version of herself truly real, or just a fleeting illusion painted over years of invisibility? The days that followed were filled with a strange mixture of exhilaration and vulnerability. Compliments poured in from acquaintances and strangers alike. She heard words like glamorous, stunning, and radiant, which once felt reserved only for women half her age. Yet, with every praise came a shadow, the fear of losing this newfound identity. She worried about what would happen if people saw beyond the hairstyle, beyond the sparkle. Would they dismiss her again? At times, she found herself retreating, wondering if the spotlight was too harsh, if she was ready to shine this brightly. But then unexpected moments would pull her back. A kind word from a stranger, a genuine smile from an old friend, a child's innocent admiration. These little lights kept her moving forward. They reminded her that this journey wasn't just about appearances. It was about rediscovering her worth, her voice, and her joy. One afternoon, she sat with her granddaughter, who looked at her with wide eyes and said, "Grandma, you look like a queen." The words wrapped around her heart, healing old wounds she hadn't realized were still there. In those simple moments, she understood that this transformation was a gift, not just for herself, but for those around her. It was a reminder that beauty and confidence have no age limit. But embracing the spotlight also meant confronting old habits. She had to learn to say no when she'd usually say yes, to prioritize her own happiness, and to protect her energy from those who couldn't accept her change. It wasn't always easy. Some family members struggled to understand, feeling threatened or confused by her boldness. Yet she stood firm, knowing that reclaiming her life meant setting new boundaries. This inner battle was perhaps the most profound transformation of all. It required courage, more than any haircut or outfit could provide. And just when she thought she'd reached a peaceful place, life surprised her again. An invitation arrived, not just to social gatherings but to share her story. Local groups wanted her to speak, to inspire others facing their own invisibility. She hesitated at first. Speaking in front of a crowd? That was a fear she never imagined overcoming. But deep inside, she knew this was her next step. This was no longer just about her. It was about giving voice to millions of women who felt unseen, unheard, and forgotten. The realization was humbling and powerful. Her journey had grown beyond personal transformation. It was becoming a beacon of hope. With trembling hands, she prepared her first speech, filled with honesty, vulnerability, and the fierce pride of a woman who had rediscovered herself. And as she stood before the crowd for the first time, the woman who once faded into the background now shone with the light that inspired everyone who heard her. Standing before that first crowd, she felt every nerve in her body awaken. The spotlight no longer intimidated her, it beckoned. Every eye focused on her, waiting to hear the story behind the stunning transformation, the courage that bloomed beyond the haircut. Her voice, at first hesitant, grew steadier with each word. She spoke not only about changing her appearance but about the internal revolution she had undergone, the battle against invisibility that so many women her age quietly endure. She shared the loneliness of fading into the background, the aching desire to be seen and valued, and the startling moment she decided to reclaim her own identity. Her story resonated deeply with those listening. Tears welled in eyes, nods of recognition rippled through the crowd. What made her transformation remarkable wasn't just the glamour or the confidence. It was her honesty, her willingness to be vulnerable, and her message that beauty and strength don't fade with age. She spoke about boundaries, how saying no became a revolutionary act of self-love, about daring to prioritize herself without guilt, about discovering joy in unexpected places. As she finished, the room erupted in applause, not just for her courage but for the universal truth she had illuminated, that it's never too late to rewrite your story. In the weeks that followed, invitations poured in, from community groups, local magazines, and even a podcast eager to feature her journey. Her story was no longer just hers. It became a movement inspiring countless others to step out of the shadows. She received messages from women who felt invisible in their own lives, who found hope in her example. From daughters grateful to see their mothers rediscover passion. From friends emboldened to embrace change. Yet, amid the growing attention, she remained grounded. She knew the journey wasn't about applause but about authentic living. About waking up each day with the courage to be fully herself. Her haircut had been the spark, but the fire was her spirit, rekindled, fierce, and free. And through it all, she discovered something else. An unexpected romance blossomed. It wasn't dramatic or rushed but gentle, like a slow dance in the twilight. A man who saw her not as the grandmother society expected, but as the vibrant, passionate woman she had become. Their connection was a testament to the truth she'd come to embrace. That love, beauty, and desire don't have expiration dates. This new chapter added richness to her story, proof that reinvention knows no age limits. And as she looked toward the future, she felt a thrilling sense of possibility, a promise that life could surprise you in the most beautiful ways, even when you thought the best was behind you. The night of the grand ballroom event was unlike any other. This time she wasn't just attending. She was the star, the glowing centerpiece everyone whispered about in awe. Her presence commanded attention, not through loud words or flamboyant gestures, but through a quiet, powerful confidence that radiated from deep within. Every step she took echoed the journey she had walked, the years of silence, the moments of doubt, the courage to stand up and say, I am here. I am beautiful. I am alive. The crowd watched as she moved with grace, her hair styled to perfection, shining under the ballroom lights like a crown forged from her own resilience. And yet, beyond the glamour was a woman who had discovered the true meaning of beauty, one that transcended youth or appearance, rooted in self-love and fierce determination. As the music played, she caught the eye of that special man, the one who had become her partner, her confidant, and her reminder that life's surprises are endless. Together they danced, not as a spectacle, but as two souls celebrating a new chapter, filled with hope, passion, and promise. The whispers in the room weren't just about her haircut or her dress. They were about the story she carried. A story of transformation, empowerment, and rebirth. People who once overlooked her now sought her out, inspired not only by her outer glow but by the strength she embodied. She became a symbol, a living testament that age is not a cage but a canvas, ready to be painted with bold strokes of courage and joy. In that moment, she wasn't just a grandmother or a woman in her 60s. She was unforgettable. Her story echoes beyond the ballroom walls, reaching anyone who has ever felt invisible, unheard, or forgotten. It reminds us all that the power to change, to shine, and to live fully lies within, waiting for the moment we decide to claim it. So what will your story be? Will you wait in the shadows? Or will you take that first step toward your own dazzling transformation? Because if she can do it at 65, then so can you. Thank you so much for joining us here at Her Love Blueprint on this inspiring journey today. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. We truly want to hear your thoughts and feelings. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos, where we'll continue exploring stories about love, growth, and how every woman can create the life she dreams of. Is there a topic or story you'd like to see next on Her Love Blueprint? Let us know down in the comments, because you are the inspiration that helps this channel grow and bring meaningful content to life. We can't wait to see you again in the next videos, where every journey begins with a brave first step.